vibe. I live a vibe. I live a vibe. I live a vibe. My life of
What
Got
up?
Jack Brown in the building. It's a pleasure to have you here,
Bridgeport, New York.
man. You know? Dude, no, they're going to dox me. They're going to dox me.
No, I had to say it because the Biggie line, man. I was driving in, I saw the sign, and like, pretty heavy. So just tell me about the first time you heard that Biggie line about Bridgeport, New York.
I might have been 13, and I was just like, damn, I got arrested in Bridgeport, New York, too.
You're out here.
We twins, babe,
So,
we twins.
To say the line right, because I want to make sure it's smoking mad Newports because I'm doing court
For an assault.
for assault that I caught up in Bridgeport, New York.
So we assaulted somebody here. So I guess, you know, living here in Bridgeport, we all are very assaultable.
So was it Christopher Well, I guess Biggie Smalls, the character from Ready to Die, would be who this is about. So Biggie Smalls was up in Bridgeport. He was
I wonder why.
catching that assault. I've been wondering for years.
Because we just got any credibility with the casino we got here. So it's just like,
Maybe that's what brought him around. You know, there. If you listen to
20 years before the
90s
casino?
hip-hop, always about up north, upstate. So there was probably a lot of connections.
maybe
through the
he was
prison
staying here
systems.
for turning and going to like turning.
I'm
Stone
just
or
saying,
something.
there's a lot to unpack. But we know Biggie was here,
know.
and now we're here.
I do wonder, like what his like coordinates were, like latitude,
what
longitude,
happened?
like how far from that exact point.
What a night.
are we right now?
I mean, obviously, it had nothing to do with the rhyme scheme. Like, this is clearly it occurred. So I got to get to the bottom of it. That's why I'm up here. That's what this podcast is all about.
That's what
we're
breaking down.
uncovering.
We're getting it down.
Because, you know, shouts to my homies, Frank White Experience, who get to tour with Lil C's. We get to hear all the Biggie stories. And when I'm touring with them and playing with them, I'm picking up on little lines here and there that I may not have heard or listened to that make me think twice, like his shout out of linens and things, you know, which he was, you know, clearly a fan of the chain, you know, of the 90s. So, you know, just little moments like that. I mean, it's what lyricists love. I love it when, you know, fans go through our lyrics and hear these little things that we snuck in there. There's a crazy one. I'll drop a little Easter egg for everybody just to start off. In Electric Blue, our new song, I say a line about a haiku, but the line itself is a haiku.
Okay.
So everyone, you can go do a little research on that one. But the line about the haiku, when you break it down,
Is a haiku.
yeah.
Well, I like that. I like that shit.
So little things like that, you know, go find it. Go have some fun with it. That's why what happens when you got two lyricists here together, two musicians, two performers. Honored to be here finally. Shouts to all our crews worldwide, New York State, AGMT on the boards right now,
Hell
getting
yeah.
it done.
I had to bring a familiar face behind the camera. I wanted to get something good.
The
for
man,
you,
the
too.
myth, the legend behind the Electric Blue video, the Recognized video, the Never Stop video, and Sound the Alarm with Roots Collider, which is another one of my favorite videos I ever did in my life. So this man is a gifted visionary, and when we put our heads together, we create stories, we create movies, we create a journey that goes with the music. And if everybody's online watching podcasts and listening and doing all this stuff, you might as well give people some real solid content that they can see who and what we are and take it back with them. Something to last.
Well, fuck
So,
yeah. Let's get into this
forever.
interview then, man. So I had E-Man on the podcast actually 4 years ago. I got a little bit of, a little dive into the Sophistafunk, creation, but I would love to hear it from your aspect. Let's start with, how'd you meet the guys?
Sophistafunk's creation.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sophistafunk's creation. First of all, the name was a journey
I could only imagine.
in and of itself because so we're going to do it like a New Hope style and then we'll prequel it and then we'll get to like Return of the Jedi. So,
Okay.
So we'll come in at the meeting point where we all meet. And that is May of 2007.
Okay.
And basically what had happened was I started making beats. And then we met a hip hop group and we started performing with them. And they'd be performing over my beats. And I was like, by the way, I write too. and they let me come up as a 6-man, and I'd get to do a couple songs at the end. But we bring all our friends out, and it would go off. And I got a taste of playing and rocking some shows in college. So that already showed me that as much as I like making beats, being up on the stage was like where I wanted to end up. So that was already a sneak peek. So then this group, what they graduated, I was still at school. I'm a senior now. I end up doing a lot of promotion for them because they still want to come up and do shows. So we end up getting a Method Man gig. And this is a big piece in all this. We get asked to open for Method Man at the Country Club. Crazy story is Ian La Rochelle, Watts Music Group, shouts out, was at that show as a little miscreant up in the Country Club way back then. So we get this gig opening for Method Man. And the guys who were supposed to open for him, the Higher Concept, they weren't up boots on the ground. They needed me to do a lot of the promotion. So I started selling tickets, hustling, and I went to all the different, like all over the campus, and basically went to the sororities, was selling tickets, like everything, anywhere I could. Turns out they almost went bankrupt from the show, and the guy who was running the show was Dan Mastronardi, who later keeps Hollaback Productions going and opens up the West Guy. And still to this day will come up to me and be like, damn, we almost lost ourselves like that show that day. So we rocked this show. Another cool story from that show is because I sold so many tickets, the group THC was like, yo, we got a lot of love. You know all our songs. You could stand up in the back and do the ad-libs for all the songs. Like you won't just come up as a 6-man. You can be on the court. So I'm like, they're thinking like, what's the worst I could do? I can't fuck up too bad. Like I'm just back there. But I did find a way to fuck up too bad. And during the set, I kick the cord out of the DJ's table, unplugging the music as they open for Method Man. This is a true story. There's even Syracuse New Times an article about this moment, which is amazing thinking back. But it gets kicked out, right? My dude Matty J, who's like my
get you a little bit away from that wall.
Who's like my mentor early on, like teaching me really like to be a student of rhymes and like what it's all about. Because as I'm making beats, I'm learning, because I was always a writer, and then I was writing like different songs, but he really took me like to the craft of it and started where I was imagining myself as like a layer on the beats. I kicked the chord out, and the dude just keeps rapping through the song, finishes the song, and he's like, we don't need no music. And then boom, they like, and then back into the next beat. We got it plugged in time. And in the paper the next day, it says, in a bit of pre-planned melodrama, the beat cut out and the rapper finished and said, we don't need any music, as like in a bit of pre-planned melodrama. So they didn't even know. So I already had done like the biggest mistake you could ever make in the biggest show you could ever have. And it already saw how like the universe, you can still like, you know what I mean? So there's a lot to that in that moment. So we play that show, and to stare at like so many people and to play with Method Man on the same stage, I'm a senior. It kind of like put to bed this concept of like, can you do it or not? Now it was more about like how.
Yeah.
How
we keep doing it.
How do we do this? Like what happened here? And I remember I was working in Brooklyn at the time. My boss was through the family, like this crazy, like tough old school guy. And he was like, I know what you want to do. You want to be a disc jockey. And like, I was like, no, you don't get it. Like when I stand in front of like 1,000 people and we're rocking the stage, he's like, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. And I said, it happened last week. I opened for Method Man. That was like, and he was like, all right, shit, give it a shot. Like that flipped the script across the board. And here I am about to graduate. And I was, at that time looking at different options in life and what's going on. And there was just something about that was like, damn. So the next show we play, that was like November, say. The next show we play is in December. And it's the same dude, Nardi, but it's before he's, has the Westcott or anything. He wants to do a little showcase of all the college bands and all the college artists across genres. And that is a theme that you'll see for upstate New York, and something I want to like to make a theme of this entire podcast is just basically like, it's not an accident that fusion like this is happening in upstate New York and in central New York, western New York, up in the Adirondacks, in the Catskills. You know, when we start looking at hip hop coming out of New York City, born here, radiating outwards naturally like music does through the airways, but also, you know, physically, what's right the fuck above? You got Woodstock, a couple hours up the road, and what that represents. And I truly do believe that when hip hop hits those woods, bro, that's the magic, that's the culture. That is what we're doing right now. That's why when I drive through these backwoods in Bridgeport, New York, it could be northern Michigan, it could be northern California, it could be freaking Maine, could be Colorado, could be anywhere. Like, when there is something that happened when hip hop made it out here, and it created all different types of fusion music. And that is what's going to happen to me that night in December when I was in college, because just by the luck of the draw, there's a funk band playing after us, the next band. So we play, and this was at a place called Bull and Bear. Shout out to Mark Bullis. Now it's called the Evergreen. There's been a million different things, but this was down in Hanover Square, which I didn't know much about downtown at the time.
It has nothing to do with the current Bull and Bear?
Oh, it's the same guy, but it was in a different spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was
love them.
This was the jam back in the day, and there was a place downtown Manhattan's. That's where another one where we had, and even the Country Club is long gone. I just saw what they did with that up on Erie Boulevard. But yeah, so we play, then the funk band plays, and then at the end of the funk band show, they just start jamming on a fucking hip hop groove. And they're like, we want to call the MCs up from the last band. And only me and that one homie that I was telling you about from the other group decide to go. And we start just trading some verses, and there's like singing a chorus. We do a little hook. Like, that day, I remember the girls dancing. I remember the way people engaged with the music. Something different was occurring. It was more, it was there. It was in the moment. It was in this space. And something about the fusion, that was like the eureka. That's eureka number one in all this. It's like, something is going on here different. The way people danced and moved to the music. A lot of the hip hop shows I'd ever been to in life was a lot about like watching it, beholding it. It's how I even watch a lot of music that I love. But once that live element hit, the way it got people moving, and as I would later find going to like places like Ithaca, where the hippie levels are strong.
You're talking about like a whole band, right? Like
yeah, there was a funk band.
Yeah.
When I found
the way how that hits
is that there's also something about the music and the message too, because when people are there in the moment to watch that music be made live, they're more apt to respond to like true heartfelt lyrics that are like on some real shit, because it's all happening there. Much in the same way like a solo would be. Like, they want to see you fucking be real and be live right there. Well, they want to see you tell your fucking truth, not just say some hot shit, but like break the fourth wall. And it worked. It worked with what I was trying to say, because I was studying like the fucking deepest underground hip hop I could. I was influenced by the rhyme schemes and flows of New York City, East Coast flows and hip hop that we all love. Nas and Busta Rhymes and Biggie and you know what I mean? Like, that's what I was truly raised on. But as I started to find like Talib Kweli and all these different like artists, and then I was shown Slug and Atmosphere when I'm in college, and I'm like, damn, people like this? Like, I got books of this in my house. I never knew I could talk about those things. Once I understood that aspect, that's what I was always seeking out. I always wanted to be like, and as I later like find and meet KRS-One, like a wisdom seeker, a truth teller, Master Ace became a homie. Doodlebug from Digable Planets became a homie. Charlie Tuna, who I'm playing with November 21st in Saratoga Springs, became a homie, and we've kicked it on tour buses and got into like real shit about history and music. But like, what I'm getting at is like that fusion, something brings out the vibe of truth and spitting truth and being really in the moment. So with that in mind, I jammed with them and it was like, I got to do this. This is it. Like something's going on here. And they're all seniors.
Before you were just DJ performing.
Yeah, I'm just making beats and writing songs. And it was like, you know, you got to understand at this time, even with my own family, if they're hearing like Jack Wants to Be in hip hop, all they know is 50 Cent. So they're like either thinking that I'm trying to be something I'm not, but I was always trying to find this place, you know, where you could literally, like I had a friend tell me once, you know, hip hop's where I escape. Hip hop is where, you know, I go on stage and I was like, I think of it as the opposite. Hip hop is where I interface with my society, where they finally listen. Well, I finally have a platform to say some shit. And honestly, you know, to each their own, we're all talking about different things, but I conscientiously went at it that way. And I do think it did steer what
I think it's why you've transcended so far is because there's nothing but authenticity.
And beyond all of it, whatever that is that the beholder thinks, if you believe it, it motivates you to stay the fuck on the grind. And that is the secret to all of it, which is like, I know so many great artists, especially rhymers, who if they never found that voice or that why, maybe they quit eventually. Or they never even, like the talent alone can't do it. It has to be, you have to believe in yourself on some deep, like personal conviction, right? Like on some shit.
Borderline
to
delusional
get through it.
level.
Right. Like what I'm saying is like, and the more that I would say that like, the world can echo back those things, you find that reality from it. But yes, you have to, at some point, like truly believe in yourself and be self-motivated to want to be the best you could be, you know. So
they say the delusion to believe it's possible and the discipline to make it happen.
Right. And as much as you think it's all out there, finding where that, like, what you're supposed to find and keeping it alive. Because in the end, look at the Grateful Dead. If they're fucking been around for 50 years, if the 31st year wasn't as big as the 35th, but was bigger than the 38th, but then it was, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different way of looking at it. And it steps off of that business paradigm and the grid of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like thinking more long-term, sustainable. Like, how can we do, like the business model of like the industry is like quick, use you up, chew you up, spit you out. But when you own your own brand and now you're communicating with people that you would actually want to hang out with and see and be around. That's what I noticed at the Fall Fest was like, why make music for people that you wouldn't like? Like that's already, what are you giving them then? If you're just sending this out or you're just collecting their money, like what we put out there, it's not one genre, it's not cookie cutter. At the same way though, their tastemakers can't say, oh, you're not in because of this band that does exactly like we just have our own world and we bring our own people in. And this was kind of the first moments of it. Here I was at this show and I just saw it all come together where it was like, you can't put your finger on what this is, but I like it and this works. And this works in upstate New York specifically. And it was just an idea. And I started going to their house every single week and just jamming up in the attic with them, writing songs and mixing some styles. One guy was from California, so it was like, we want to have like kind of the vibe that like surfers would like it, reggae would like it, hippie, got some jam elements, got some funk elements, fucking hip hop, a little bit of dance beats, something, you know, and all of that was starting to come together right away. And then they said, for graduation, guess what? We booked a show at a new place that just opened up about a month ago. And its name is Funk and Waffles.
I had a feeling.
So,
Marshall Street?
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, it just opened up.
Take
it was
me
a
back
coffee
into the
shop.
basement.
They took over the coffee shop. And the key is with this, Funk and Waffles, I only had heard of it as a house parties series. That's what it began as. So when I'm in college, I'm hearing every Tuesday night, there is a Funk and Waffles house party. That's where this begins.
Okay.
And it would be at different houses. And I had a friend who was in a band who knew of people who played in it. And a band would play downstairs and you'd pay a cover and they had kegs, unlimited drink, and they would make free waffles and they put candy in them and crazy shit. So that's how this all began. And I heard of, so the backstory here is that those guys were a year older than me who would run those parties. It was Adam and another guy. And they had a whole band too. Adam played in the band.
This is Sweaty Pants, if I'm not mistaken, right?
You know about Sweaty Pants, Sweaty Etiquette,
Sweaty
Party
Etiquette.
in Your Pants. Rah Rah Riot, which became a real band out of this. Wes Miles is like a Rah Rah Riot played at Funk and Waffles like a month after like this story I'm telling you, maybe a month or two after, and the opening act was a band nobody ever heard of called Vampire Weekend that like months later was massive. So that whole little crew was happening out of Syracuse also. So there was like a music artsy scene. There was this little hip hop offshoot that we were doing, and we kind of got plugged into that. But really what was going on in upstate New York was like Giant Panda and like this festy scene that I knew nothing about. So that was like was going to be the soon to be home for all of this. But the real goal was at first to meet the musicians. So we play down at Funk and Waffles, and there's a keyboard already on stage set up. I meet Adam. They're like, this is the owner. The backstory is they graduated, and when they were seniors, they entered a business contest as a joke, essentially, and wore like Adidas jumpsuits and pitched this restaurant called Funk and Waffles and ended up placing and getting a $10,000 grant for this business contest, even though for food, I guess apparently they don't, it's usually like for crazy business plans and stuff like that. So because of that, they decided to stay up in Syracuse and make their own restaurant. And the way they did it was there was a failing coffee shop in the basement that needed to get out of its lease, and they bought the rest of its lease for it for like a sweet deal. And they turned La Taza Coffee Shop into Funk and Waffles. And that's where Funk and Waffles, the music venue, begins. And they start having shows there, and we go down there and play. And the keyboard player sits in on the keys with us and is fucking flipping the keyboard open and playing the metal strings and going crazy. And he's like from another era, bro. I thought he was older. I didn't know what was going on. Like, it seemed like on some throwback shit. Like, but it was cool. I was like, all right, this guy's cool. This is a cool spot. This has something to do with the music. Plus, I'm starting to realize that some of these guys are graduating, like what the next move is. I'm about to graduate. We're doing the hip hop thing. My buddy's going to be moving down to New York City. We got a studio down there. They're working as engineers, recording Wu-Tang Clan, but it's definitely more on like straight up hip hop tip. And I feel like I've just built something up here in upstate. Why should I leave where like it feels like I'm getting connected? So I'm already going through that, kind of adding things up. So we get the call one night to come down for a practice, for a jam session at Funk and Waffles. This is the most important night when it comes to Sophistafunk canon. This is it. This is the night. We go down there. It was a Tuesday night. Me and
had to have been on a Tuesday. Tuesday's just.
I was born on a Tuesday,
dude. Tuesday,
bro. I never knew what day I was born on, and someone was like, "What day were you born on?" Like very recently, and I was like, "Not a Monday," and I was like, "Not a Friday, not a Saturday, not a Sunday." I was like, "Not a Wednesday." I was like, "Not a Thursday." I'm like, "What's left?" They're like Tuesday, and I looked it up. It was like Tuesday.
I'm gonna have to check now.
Just Tuesday's a good day, man. Like, so anyway, it was a Tuesday night. We walk in. He called up the other rapper. That's all. Because that dude was Adam's year. That was the only guy he knew. So he calls up and Maddie J, original founding member of what would become Sophistafunk. And there was one other guy there that day too. So there was 5 of us. Who soon another guy named Jack, first Jack I had ever met besides myself, ends up introducing me to Adam Gold. Got us down to that gig. He was the trumpet player in the funk band, and he was a homie. So shouts to Jack Taylor. We stay at his house and we play out in San Diego, Pacific Beach. He played on our song Cali Dreamer, that pretty soon we're going to be doing a music video with AGMT and doing some fun shit inspired by all the great videos that my homie's putting out and everybody's putting out. So with that in mind, yeah, there were 5 of us there that night, but really he called the other rapper, and we walk in and Adam is on the keys and there's a drummer playing, and it's E-Man. Okay. And he's killing it on the drums. But not on some funk shit, not on some rock shit. He is laying a fucking beats. Like, all I can equate it to in my life, all I know up to this point is Questlove, right? Like, when it comes to live hip-hop, MTV Unplugged, The Roots, you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like, it felt that real. It felt like, God damn. Like, And Adam is just in heaven, like playing like bass lines with him, and just they're fucking laying some cuts. I'm like, so I showed up. I brought a couple friends. So there was like 5 or 6 girls with me when I walk in, and this guy, Maddie. And E-Man looks up and had the same moment, like, who the fuck are these guys? Because we just come and like sit at the table. Now Funk and Waffles was open, so we get some stuff. We're checking out the place, you know. We're just sitting there watching. They call the MC, Maddie, up. He does a little verse with them. It's just all informal. Then they play this other beat. And I was like working with Maddie on the side because he lived in Syracuse. The other guys lived in New York City. So we were like working with this local DJ and coming up with ideas. So we were like basically coming up with our own side stuff that we didn't have a project for yet. And now he's up rhyming with these guys. And I'm like, do the hook from that. And like, he's like, what? He's like, come up on stage. And I took that mic and I dropped this hook. And at this point, I wasn't like, I hadn't performed a lot, but I actually think that this helped me in a way because I was very malleable. I was very open-minded. So I wasn't like rooted in like very hardened hip hop sensibilities or this or that sensibilities that would have maybe prevented me from doing something way outside the box that was about to come and to start being embraced by truly jam band festival and hippie and Ithaca fam and like a whole new world that was like responding deeply to my messages. Like one of the first songs, like I Was Born Seeing All Colors, that I do down in Ithaca, where I'm like, damn, like the more I keep leaning into this message, I'm opening up some other vibes that are like, you know, on some like activist, peace, love, call to action music, which is really the music I want to make that I feel like was harder to find in mainstream hip hop. So that was like, oh shit, trust it, because that's what you want to do anyway. And then maybe if you keep going towards that, you don't have to fall into the sensibilities of any of it. Hip hop, jam music, any of this music. You can, because this is what, 16s and hooks, even to this day, Sophistafunk. But yet it's over this live accordion style, improvisational thing that makes people feel like all these different styles, you know, and I was willing to like go off on that path, start dressing funky. You know the old pics, right? You know about the old school Sophistafunk, like the funky jackets.
I would have to actually dive into that. I don't think I've seen
that's the glasses, the fucking fedoras. Like there was a reason behind all of that, which is that we were opening up to like other worlds and coming in on some like funky poet, like trying to mess with that very pigeonholed viewpoint where hip hop was only 50 Cent. You know what I mean? Because that's what it felt like at that time. And looking back, it might sound like, what? That's
and you
crazy.
just mean that as a variable of like an aggressive, you got to be hard as fuck or else you're not a rapper.
And if you remember, like Kanye goes against 50 Cent in that famous
Pink Polo,
where they put out their albums on the same day, and one said he'd retire, and I would say that after that point, I remember showing up at the bus stop, and then all the kids were in skinny jeans, and Lil Wayne was in, and like hip hop started moving. So there was a crossroads that we were all coming to at that moment. But this was us like pushing outwards on it and saying like, inspired by the Roots. Roots came to Syracuse. We watched them play. I know it's a great story with Adam kicking it with them and like hooking them up and chilling with them. And so that's a whole thing, is that like Adam had his own journey doing sound production at SU and was like getting up in with the school during this time. That's why he opened up Funk and Waffles on campus. Meets E-Man in a similar way. E-Man was playing with a band that played at Funk and Waffles, and they were jamming out and really connected. So E-Man kept being like, when are you going to play with me? When are you going to play with me? So Adam really thought this all out. Was like, I'm going to get that awesome drummer I met to come play, and I'm going to call these MCs. I already own my restaurant. Maybe I could do like a band and restaurant thing. Like he already had that vision where it came to like 5D branding and stuff, that the music and the venue could work.
I like that phrase, 5D branding.
Like he was on a tip of that. Now what's crazy is like maybe he didn't conceptualize where I was going to swoop in with like the peace, love, and like the movement side of it. But that's where Jack Brown's always going to come in on that tip with. And even when we're like teaming up with the cannabis industry right now and like doing all these great music events, I'm bringing that peace, love, freedom is you, freedom is me, freedom of mind, like on some real shit, anti-propaganda, like wake the fuck up universe. In with it all, because that's the real movement. That's the real upstate, bro. That's like how we get it. So in the end, I feel like we all, and why I think Sophistafunk has worked for so long is we all got to be us to like the max. Adam could be as funky as the fuck he wants. He has carte blanche with those keyboards, with the beatboxing. He can just unleash. And it's just syncopation. It's his ideas. It's his brain. It's like, E-Man, same thing. It's like, boom, I got this. And then once he started coming into his own as a singer and got the bars and like an entertainer, like all of it, he's a one-man army in himself who gets to go off. There's no like, you can't overplay it. You know what I mean? Like it is him at his fullest beasting is Sophistafunk. Adam being him. So it gives us this palette for people to just unleash. And we're like always had that raw in the room energy, which kept us versatile, kept us alive, whether we're playing with, you know, rock bands and funk bands and hip hop acts and DJs, modern, old school, doesn't matter. We're always gonna like,
people are gonna hear it and they're gonna be like, ooh, I actually do like this, you know?
And my favorite shit is actually the all ages, the all venue, all everything. When you just put us in a place where there's like 1,000 people on a street, I swear, like not delusion, not body talk. Show me a fucking band that could rock that 1,000. There are so many bands that would be good to a certain niche of that niche would be like, fuck yeah, that is greatest ever. But I'm saying who could take that whole 1,000, right? And get the
just get the whole head bop.
And I would argue that like the music industry doesn't even value that, right? I would argue that they want you to niche out and they want to sell it and they want to beam it in like a fucking super laser, you know, even fucking look at a festival 15 years ago, 2010, bluegrass, funk, folk, fucking rock, jam, modern electronic jam, dubstep, like rave, all of it in one festival. Now that's all become 25 different festivals that they want to sell to us. Like they're always trying to like.
And what I kind of hate about that is that when you go to like I went to, you know, I recently just went to a really heavy rock festival. Like they're like, bleh. And I love that music. But after 6 hours of it, I'm like, you know, and I would love just a
100%,
dude. If I would do it, it's just another. I would, you know what I'm saying? So I think. The diversity needs to come back in the music festival scene.
And that's what I like about this upstate movement that we're doing, which is it's not just one style, it's not one genre. It's saying that all that fusion and all the different ways it looks is the upstate statement. So we're not saying we have one sound. We're saying all of these sounds, from the fucking backwoods to the back roads, out here, anyone who's putting together anything, like taking hip hop, mixing it with live bands, mixing with live sounds, putting it together, all different styles, that is the upstate statement. And that's what I've found is like speaks volumes. And that's where we're like building this movement now.
So take me to the first show you guys played together.
So, all right. The first show is opening for Giant Panda at Funk and Waffles.
Okay.
So we form a band that night. We jam out. We go back. We go to like a party afterwards, and then we're like, yo, let's go back to Funk and Waffles. We locked the doors, stay there all night, and we made the band that night. And then we're like, all right, we need a show. So we knew that Giant Panda was going to be playing at Funk and Waffles. They were doing really well in Rochester. They were playing these cool shows up in Syracuse. So we opened for them. And there was the 5 of us, the trumpet player, drums, keyboards, and 2 rappers. And a lot of the early ideas and a lot of what became Sophistafunk is already underway at that time. So that was our first show. And then the guy tells us at the end, like, I'm moving to California, the trumpet player. So Jack is out. And then within a year, Maddie, who had graduated, moved down to New York City to be with the rest of his group who are all going for it in New York City. And he was doing like a part-time thing, and it was like getting tough because he's like, you know what I mean? It's just the nature of it. Oh, I'll come up for the big show, but then what about the little show? And then things are going in different directions. And then we started playing in Ithaca. That's really the breakthrough. We play a show in Ithaca at Castaways, which is now Deep Dive. Shouts to TJ for bringing that amazing brand back, because that was like literally my first road gig where I was like, oh shit, like we could do this. Because we played into this packed house in Ithaca, and now I really gotta say, you take 100 people in Ithaca, that's a focus group for a 10,000 person festival. If you can rock 100 random Ithacans, then you can rock any festival in America. It's unbelievable. And Ithaca is how we get into the festival scene. And the festival scene is how we fucking do it. Because it's about to happen. We play this packed house, opening for the homies, the Rosatones, in Ithaca, and people were getting fucking batty. And I remember calling my parents after that show, and I was like, it was the first time I played a room full of strangers, and the strangers got the fuck down. Who knows if they didn't? If they didn't, who knows? But they got down, I was like, we could do this shit. They like it. They like something that we're doing. And I'm telling you, a lot of that shit was already us. We were already being us. Like, that shit had already... It's that moment, because then we get invited to Muse Fest, which is our first festival from that gig. And then from playing Muse Fest, which we do this fucking sick rendition with like, they're like dubbing us out and putting our echoes on everything, and we're getting like trippier. The other thing is we're starting to go up to Old City Hall in Oswego.
Before we get to Old City Hall, let me bring it back actually. How'd the name come about?
Okay.
Sorry.
So the first name we play at when we open for...
Giant Panda.
For Giant Panda, we are 3-1 Live.
3-1 Live? Okay. Okay.
Clever. It was like, you know, because it's like 3-1-5, but we're a live band, so like nobody could even see that coming, that you could like make it 3-1
live.
And then live. Like 3-1 live. Not 3-1-5, 3-1.
I could easily
live.
see everybody being like, oh yeah, we're on board with that.
I think we were like THREE Wood, like this is the Blink-182, you know, era. 3-1 Live, at least even in our idiocy of the era, we were quickly able to realize that we needed to change it. So 3-1 Live.
But I get why you're sold on it, because I'm kind of like, all right, 3-1 Live, that ain't bad.
If you only wanted to like blow up in Syracuse,
yeah.
But like even that, or maybe blow Syracuse up and be like, we are. But even that, it's not 3-1-5, it's 3-1 Live. I don't know. 3-1 Live. There was 3 of us.
It's a good festival name for Syracuse.
Yes. So it was a musical word involving Syracuse that, I mean, honestly, it makes more sense than how we got to Sophistafunk. So God bless it. But then we realized pretty quickly we gotta change.
How many gigs do you guys do as 3-1 Live?
We play our first show. We meet in May. We play our first show around May, June. And we're 3-1. We're Sophistafunk in September 1st by the time like school comes back. That's that next 07, 08. Because then we open for Fergie at the Carrier Dome. And that's like, and then we get a record contract through SU and they pay for our first album. Like all these little things happen that like got us over the fucking fence, bro. I can't even. And it was a record deal through Sony, but through SU. So like we owned our own masters and like it was the most friendly deal. And then they let us like buy out of it. And it was like so sweet and tender and wonderful. Like every aspect of this.
I think you
like
never
lucky.
hear that.
Yeah, it was. We've been independent ever since. It's on some crazy shit, man. The whole thing. So, okay, Sophistafunk, the name. Got to give a lot of credit to Adam on this one because we kept trying to come up with names. We came up with Sophistafunk pretty quickly in the process of what it could be changed into. Now, Sophistafunk is mentioned in an Outkast song where he starts it in The Love Below. He goes, Sophistafunk, Aristocats, Distinguished Thugs, Clean Up Your Act. It comes in, Behold the Lady is the name of the song. So Sophistafunk is, and then has a long history. Chick Corea, Jack McDuff has a thing, Sophisticated Funk. We didn't know about, we knew the word, we didn't know much of the history of it, but the phrase is basically like it's got some rich history to it. And what I love about it is like it's got a yin yang to it. It's like this Sophistafunk, right? So we start coming up with all these names. Adam at the time wanted it to be Syrup.
Syrup?
5D branding. He figures he's got Funk and Waffles.
Or Syrup. Okay.
Now he's got the band. There's Syrup. I get it now.
Again, and great pitch. These are all great pitches.
I'm not even mad at Syrup.
What was the worst name that was pitched? Besides that you guys did like 3-1 Live. What was a bad one? Because you guys are crushing these names.
The famous name that was never going to be, but it's a famous thing, is called Shotgun Caboose. And that's like the big inside joke. Okay. But I'm going to skim quickly on that one. But the real thing was that we came to Sophistafunk quickly, and that there became a growing swell from the people to make it Sophistafunk. But Adam, the funk man himself, was the most reluctant, and I had to figure out why. And so I finally was getting exhausting, and we were coming up on like the show to start the new school year. And he was working down at Funk and Waffles, and I went down there and I said, "Hey man, like I keep thinking about it. I've been going all over, but I feel like it's Sophistafunk. Like that's the name, Sophistafunk." And he was like working, and he looked up at me and he said, and this is what was holding him back, "Then we gotta be Sophistafunk." That's what he said. We gotta be Sophistafunk. And he said it so heartfelt. Like I knew where he was coming from with it. Like you can't just take that name. Like he was already starting to think, like, because we later wear suits, and what the vibe would be, and how you present it, and what it now becomes. And it ended up being a different thing. Like to be Sophistafunk, what he was right. Adam was right. You had to really, to be Sophistafunk was to be Sophistafunk. You had to be Sophistafunk. And the name was born. And we set the, we set the bar high, and then we had to live up to it. And when I look back on a lot of that, I mean, it's within a month or two, that's when we play that show in Ithaca. And that was like, oh shit. And then we start playing the festivals. And then the next year we play Sterling. And they gave us the 1:30 a.m. slot on the fucking big night. And we were the first band ever to have like the bass plugged in like that. And we had Alex from Rubble Bucket on trumpet, who wandered over after their set. And we played from 1:30 till about 5:30 in the morning.
And this is in the Sinatra Lounge?
This was in the Sinatra Lounge in its earliest form. And that's where I have to give credit, because from then on we start going up to Old City Hall. And that's what made us a jam band, because they'd want us to play for 3 hours, and we play there so regularly that we started adding these extra parts to our songs, extra sections, and having all these different things happen. And each song became its own thing, and we got like real crazy up in Old City Hall. So that makes us the fucking jam band. And then now we're rolling right up to Colorado and going on tour at Colorado. And that's like the fucking transformative thing, because that's like a crossroads. We meet the bands from California, and Colorado liked us. And that was like, and then the agency, he's like, "Damn, I see you on all the festivals my bands are on. You guys are hustling." Because they want to watch you work to sign you. You know what I mean? It's not as much about like swooping in and they want to see you going and know that you're sustainable and be like, "All right, let's work."
We were just talking about that before
you know what I mean?
Like,
and there's a lot.
They're not going to see somebody and be like, "I think you might be a good act."
Right. They want to see
you be a good act.
Right. So, and a lot of that, that kind of comes up a lot when we're like bumping bellies with some big dogs in different fields and industries through all the years with that. And there's a lot of homies who look out for us, because obviously the spiky haired homie is coming in soon in this whole story. So, but we're getting us to Colorado is crucial. And I want to give a big shout out to Matt O'Brien from originally Giant Panda, that when they ended up turning into two bands, Thunderbody and Giant Panda, we went on tour with Thunderbody to Colorado. And the craziest shit is, he brought us on tour and showed us a life and a way of touring that we then replicated for the rest of our existence. That was built upon friends, building friendships, going to attractions in that city or area, participating, eating at cool restaurants, participating in the food, healthy food, cool, different food, unique food, turning every single like place and just the way we networked, the way we were, the way we stayed at friends' houses, like the whole blueprint. We did that on that Colorado trip, and we stuck to that and toured this whole country, bro, over and over again, coast to coast, wearing that shit out, weeks at a time, for years to come, living that. And then years later, I see him, and I'm like, homie, we like did it, bro. We did that blueprint. And he was like, bro, I only did that for that one tour. That was like me trying to, he did a Costanza opposite that one tour. He was like, I was so tired of being in fucking hotels and at rest stops and always fucking tired and always bored. And just, I was like, I wanted to do a different kind of tour. And he did it that way. And we followed that way the whole time. You know, and to our credit, we are different than a lot of bands. We all own the band. And there's only 3 of us. If we hire different musicians to play with us, you know, for different shows. But that is smaller than most bands. And it's different when all of them own it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, what's amazing about that too is that it you can play in so many varieties of places too.
And you can keep it nice and tight. And you can get in here, and then, you know, a lot of it was like get a big show and then go out there and then get shows on the way out and then get in a couple other ones. Then you get to come home with that, and you started playing around it. And then you turn some of the little ones into bigger ones. You play some over the weekend, like a Sunday or a Wednesday. Other ones you play on the weekend night. A lot of places, like, it's counterintuitive. You don't blow up in Chicago. You play in like Grand Rapids, Michigan, where there's like a bar that everybody goes to that you blow up in quicker, and then you build up in those. The big cities are actually harder in that way. Like, so you start to find these like cool places. And then right around this time, the breweries become like a thing, and they have their own money and a different business model than like a venue. Now we got cannabis dispensaries, all new frontiers. So a lot of this was just those doors open up along the way, but along the way it was just mostly like go to a show, get invited back, get invited somewhere else from it. That's been it. You know? And that's why the pandemic was so heavy, and why I speak out about that and what really happened to us and why we were the first to close and the last to open and what we had to live through, because our equity was out in these cities, and I thought I could just forever go play and have these cities and these new opportunities. And once you close those doors, all those connections, you know what I mean? So when the big thing during that time was survival. And I really felt like the cards were stacked against us to be destroyed, just much like many small businesses who non-coincidentally fund and support all grassroots campaigns are like the most anti-establishment, like amazing, you know, grassroots, like self-sufficient, independent type of things that there are. Is like starts with small business, starts with the small business of music, the middle class of music, not the guy playing in the one bar down, you know, who lives and works, and not the guy who's up in the stadium. What about the rest of us, right? And all those amazing promoters who are the guys who owned all the equipment, and they had to stay and hold that. Like, don't even get me started. That's a podcast unto itself. But what I decided even then was like, survive, put it into the art. I already had that message, but I guess what I'm kind of saying is after all of that, the great silver lining to it all is that we were always a band that was a call to action. But by 2019, you know, people are like, well, what are you crying on about? The music was getting more vapid. Everybody was like kind of tuning out. But then after everything went down, 2020, 2021 to present, all of a sudden, bands that say some real shit are more prescient than ever before. This is our moment. And now, we're the OGs. We're the unks. We got receipts. We've been saying it for 10 years. So not only are the ones saying the things that need to be said right now, which my whole idea was never put this shit on fucking Facebook and have everybody arguing and, you know, bullying each other and getting in echo chambers and propaganda and just
misinterpretations.
Put it right into the art. Double down, put it into the art, say it through the art, and let the same people that would be fighting online come together, because that's what I want to be. If it's divide and conquer, I want to be the antidote, and I want my music to be the antidote, and we keep people together. And it was tough when we couldn't link up, and thus it made me finally have to embrace making music videos, having more of an online presence, things like that, which I reluctantly, because to me, I would always caution people about social media, because no matter what you put into it, you always feel like you can put in more. It's never enough.
I feel like it's the modern version of, how video killed the radio star.
Absolutely.
Internet killed the live venue.
And I would argue it's like a toilet that just keeps flushing, that you could just keep pouring yourself into, and it will just always be like, there's more you could give, and you have to draw your own lines and boundaries.
I call it feeding the beast. It's the reason I made this podcast, is to just give the people enough, because I only want to write music at the rate I want to write music and make music, and when it feels right to make music, opposed to...
No, and it's important to have these because as I see now, and from all the podcasts and clips and things that I even consume, how important it is and how valuable. Absolutely. And especially to give people something real that they can grab onto through any means. I mean, that's what I really learned about through all of this. One of my biggest takeaways is, I went to school to be a sports journalist, and I felt like, I don't want to write about sports for 30 years and then be like, what did I ever do? I could have said something more. I could have done something more. So I chose music so I could say something and make a difference. But the irony is, or the great realization is, and anyone can go do this, you go on any streaming site and watch some of these sports documentaries that people make. They talk about corruption and social issues and deep things introspectively through the lens of history and sport, and bring up the same kind of things that I'm trying to do in my music. So I could have been a sports journalist and done some ill shit like that. And I could have been a musician and said some vapid, inane bullshit and regurgitated commercialism to try to keep dead styles alive, to keep a fucking lie going to the universe. Or I could actually say some real shit, stand up for some real shit, make some real music, build it my own way. So in the end, what I say to everybody out there is it doesn't have to be through music. I mean, I would argue everyone should have music in their life to some degree. Whether it's a hobby, whether it's for fun to listen. I mean, it can make you cry, it can make you laugh. But whatever you're working or doing can be literally anything. It's what you put your intention into that work. I could have been a sports journalist if I was making some ill shit like that. I could have been, I chose to be a musician because this looked like it was an open lane for me to talk this out. But as the truth was, it wasn't an open lane. It was actually a really hard road. And I had to really stand up for myself through it all. And there was a lot of times that the people that just seemingly had no moral compass or backbone got further or went and did those kind of things. And I say to everyone, set your boundaries and then respect the fuck out of what successes you get within those boundaries. Don't worry about other people who violate your boundaries, what happens with them. Stand up for your own truths and believe in yourself. And, especially to every artist out there, but I'll say it it's to everyone. Celebrate your fucking victories. Celebrate your victories. That is one of the biggest secrets in all of this. You have to be able to recognize milestones, growth, things that only you would know about certain situations that are very important. And if you're not actively cheering yourself on with that, that's where so much of that energy and power comes from, is truly manifesting that and celebrating your wins that you recognize within yourself. And that is such a crucial part of this journey, because my whole thing is that we're all going through very personal individual journeys. Right now, it's like a fucking mental trip, right? We're all in our own fucking heads. We all have our own life experiences, every single billions and billions of them up to this moment that got us to right here, that is so unique, that is so crafted. And then not to mention all genetic and DNA and life and all this, everything to the ether, to the present, that got us to this moment and what we're going through. So in that sense, we are so unique and different, right? And separate. But it's not happening in a vacuum. I'm having my fucking trip, but you're having yours right there. You're having yours. Everyone out listening to this is having theirs right now. So it's like, as much as it's so personal, we're actually all fucking connected, because I can reach into yours right now and like affect yours and you affect mine. And like,
I think that's the reality of the multiverse.
You know, that is it. And multiverse is always like a fucking sick name and word, because it's like, you know, we write.
Yeah, but I don't think it's like how like Marvel describes it. It's like a whole nother. I think, you know, literally, like you said, you're experiencing this existence as I'm also experiencing it, but it's, you know, our own
and if
unique.
I can affect yours and like put something, some cool, like something, like the way that home cooked meals make you feel better. If we can put that in with like, you know, like some music, some art is like empty calories or bullshit. If I can give you like,
if I can define my first time experiencing Sophistafunk, I think I was 15. Is that Sterling? Which I would try. I wonder if that was the
got to be right in the
Sinatra.
wheelhouse. Yeah.
But it was like a, you know, home cooked meal.
And
that's a great definition of it.
And it makes you want to go do it. Like, I've always liked that. We make people want to go make.
It was something I wanted to note on this podcast, is that seeing that day, you guys specifically, I'm like, dude, I need to fucking, if I want to make music, I need to go fucking do it. Make fucking some music.
And that's what like Tupac said about like inspiring the person who changes the world and stuff like that. That's the shit that motivated me on all this, was like, walk this road and I see the echoes of it. Jessica Brown is like our homegirl from the beginning. She was a barista. She came up and sang with us, and like hearing her message, or like the homie No Offense out in Rochester, just anyone who's like, you know, and it's just such a blessing, because to the world they look and they think like Sophistafunk is something you can like knock on and touch, but it's like we created that idea and we made it and we kept it alive and kept nurturing it. And I just think the secret to a lot of this, like it's in the song Never Stop, is just about like what it really means to like keep it alive, you know, and that is the true legacy. When I look back on all these years of it, it's like so much happy accidents that just opened up a door. Like almost if you were like jumping from lily pad to lily pad, but they were sinking behind you and you just kept jumping to the next one. And like the world was changing. You know, I remember bands like Driving, The Police. It was crazy, bro. We lived it. And I could fill up 20 podcasts with that. But I remember during the recession, like it started to change, because they were starting to be like, well, at least you motherfuckers are working out here and trying to do your thing. Or they started to like find our merch and they'd be like, all right, you guys are hustling, like go do your thing, you know? And then the de-emphasis, and then like we started watching it change from state to state, and we were ambassadors of like, you know, a change in consciousness, making music about it. That's the other thing, is like, we stand on it because my music's like been about it. How can, you know, you complain about the world and all these things? It's like, put it in your art. You know what I mean? Like that to me, people end up developing a relationship with that that's more like your favorite author than like a fad or a hot musician with a hot track. And I think that's another key too, is then you develop a longer relationship where they stand on like what you stand on, and what, you know, you staying true to your word and staying true to it throughout. And I always secretly just feel like if I stay true to that, the doors will open where they're supposed to and things will happen the way they're supposed to. Like that's actually my real relationship with all of this. And if I broke that, even if it was like the shiniest, dangliest thing, like, nope, it would all be gone. You know what I mean? It's like some Greek myth or something, you know? It's just, I gotta like keep walking and it'll keep going. And, you know, one thing I'll say is like, people might have trouble having faith in the universe because of things that happen to them early on in life. We all been there. I think it's a perspective thing, because we're all, whatever we've been through, we all made it to here, and we're all here right now. And there is a blessing to that. And, you know, I have a very rugged optimism. I'll I'll put it out there because I think it's good to like put it on wax. But like, we're on the material plane, right? All good and all bad, and this is my opinion, right, is here. All things. That's why bad things happen to good people. That's why the worst of the worst and the best of the best all happens here, because we're living in a certain bandwidth that all things occur in order to derive even what we would consider good or bad. Because say you were immortal, right? Then, and it was just pure bliss, no death, pure up. There's almost like a, what I would say is it's like something static about that.
You'd grow callous to it.
Right. And that here, coming to this realm where you do have gain and loss, where good can happen, bad can happen, where you have to derive what good and bad is, where you have to figure out your own, you know, self from all of it, is and have the risk of dying and losing it all, and the risk of, and feel the taste of love and the ups and the beauties and the
silver lining. You got
that is the great journey, the great thrill. That, and what I would argue is like, almost like, I say this tongue in cheek, but like the immortals would line up on StubHub to get the best seats at the most fucked up, crazy times and the most, you know what I mean? To be there for those, to derive the most energy from it, to be like, wow, this is the most, like, there's no better time to be here than right now. Like, so what I'm kind of getting at is if the immortals want to be here in this up and down world, then maybe that isn't heaven and this is heaven. And heaven is us figuring this the fuck out, and what that journey, and deriving beauty and love and light from the journey.
I often ask them. I often ask people to describe heaven to me.
And so then to me, it's like, if heaven is here, then through all this shit, I'm not going to have fear, right? Because once I give up my love for life, then I gave away that power. So they're not going to take my love of life. And I'm the one who believes that everything in me is in this universe, is everywhere. So if I hold on to that love, if I'm holding on to it, that means even in the most evil motherfucker on the planet, they can't let go of theirs. It's still there because I'm holding on. And that means what? They could come for me, but it doesn't even matter, because as long as somebody else is, they're done. So my life is to inspire others. Inspiration is the word I've meditated on a long time. But if I'm going to use my voice, if I'm going to speak up, if I'm going to have a platform, that's a responsibility. It's got to be for that direct type of inspiration, which is like on people finding that fulfillment and happiness, and how to like break through, because so much of advertising, commercials are basically telling you, you need this, you're not good enough, subconsciously. Whether, you know what I mean? It's just, we wear people down in so much art. And there's a commodification to it and a capitalism around it, and people who pay you to do that and want to use your mental powers and energy to pull that from people. But I'm going to give something different, and thus it's going to be a completely different business model and a different relationship with my fans, a different universe. And I'm going to live in a different, and I saw it when we go overseas and like people put us up and they'll be like, oh, they hate Americans. They don't hate Americans that are there playing music. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they hate
we're
Americans.
bringing art and culture. They might hate a certain type of a tourist or a certain culture or thing. And even then, I'm not justifying that, but I'm getting at is like
ignorance. They probably like, don't enjoy.
But when you bring art and culture, it's a different foot forward. And I'm really like, my goal in this world is to inspire. I hung out with Harry Belafonte, the late Harry Belafonte, before he passed, and he told me a story that Martin Luther King told him, and he said, sometimes you got to preach to the choir because they might stop singing. And I love that line because you got to, like, even us, we make music and we put out an album. It's great for our fans that love us already. It's great for new fans. You can never worry too much about that and not enough about that. You got to make music in a way that speaks volumes, and you got to give it to your people too and your crew. And that was where I had really the biggest epiphany of all, which is like, upstate New York, this is home, and this movement has to generate out of here. And that's when I started just thinking over the last 2 years about building bridges. You saw TBC, the homies, Basement Chronicles out from Saratoga, Home Growers Championship out in Rochester, Batavia, Buffalo area, Grub out in Niagara Falls, Roots Collider, Rochester. I started just piecing it all together and was like, my dude Quince with the live band up in Watertown, Saranac Lake, the Waterhole crew. Then, it just started Ithaca, started just understanding what this was all about. And I'm like putting that upstate, and that's what the Fall Fest was all about. And just, that's the statement that, and the homie Felix Free out in Rochester. I mean, that's a true, like, cut from the same cloth, like true rhymer, true MC. Like, there's something
incredibly talented. He sets the bar for sure.
So we're gonna be rocking a show November 15th at the Westcott Theater. I'm DJing to end the night, and I'm gonna have some guest MCs come up, and I got DJ RDF with me, and that's gonna be the best. Like, because this DJ shit we're doing is getting crazy with the live music mixed in and spinning disco house over some hip hop beats, and just it's a fucking party. It's a get down. So yeah, that's coming up November 15th. Felix Free will be there. But yeah, just started to see that, like, let's put this together and make a movement out of this zone. Like, our mountains, our lakes, our trees, our backwoods, upstate New York, worldwide. And that's, what brings me up here to Bridgeport, New York.
Bridgeport, man. I'm honored to have you, man. You are fucking killing this interview, by the way. It's like you read my questions for me. You ripped through half of them, so I don't even really need to ask those. What was your first
interview? I thought I was just yapping.
Yapping, chilling, vibing. What was your first CD? What was the first CD you ever went and purchased yourself? Not like, that you got for Christmas or something. What was the first CD Jack Brown ever went and bought?
First tape I ever got was Michael Jackson, Black or White. I picked it out from like a huge wall. CDs, first CD was, you could order those ones in and stuff like that. So, Shaq Diesel, Crisscross, and Ready to Die. Those are the first three I ever got at the same time. Thank God Ready to Die was in there. But yeah, I used to say it's all good, baby, baby, before my soccer games. And I was like 9. And I was just exposed to my dad's rock and roll early on, and I had a lot of friends who were like punk rock, New Jersey. I was in mosh pits and stuff, and hip hop was always my thing. I was a writer and poet and just writing rhymes. My first rap I wrote was in 4th grade, and like it holds up still. There's some cool lines.
What about the first song you ever recorded? Is that still out there in the universe?
Yeah, I started. My buddy's a musician, shout out to Matt Bayless, and he brought me over to this homie's house. I will tell you, Dr. Dre, The Chronic 2001, those beats, because I was going to a lot of rock and punk rock shows, and those beats, that was like the last straw, like hip hop. Like, and then I went to this guy, Mike Matos' house, and he was making beats in his house, and I was getting into like arrangement, like pull the fucking that out and leave the and that in. And I was like listening to these beats, and I went home and I was writing to them. So that's already in high school. And then I go to college and I bring my keyboard, and then my college roommate is a hacker, and I'm like, get me Fruity Loops. And then I start making beats, and I had my keyboard plugged into it. And then I just started doing it for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And then by the next year I met the MCs, and like, yeah, and then I always knew I was going to end up on stage. Like, that's where I wanted to be. But it was a long journey, and there was times, if I didn't meet them, I would have never thought it was possible. So the way you described that, same thing I went through.
So did you ever have an open mic era at all, really? Where you, like, hit the open mic circuit? Because for me, my start was in that same basement.
Funk and Waffles, open mic?
Yeah, that's where I first realized, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I like to rap. What do you do? How do I even, like, take this to the next level besides just rapping over beats in my living room?
All right, you got me on some unk shit. I could drop a little wisdom on this one. Okay, so my first shows in college were packed houses that were like the place to be, and we filled them out.
Okay, so like college house party.
Yeah, but like in venues and stuff like that. then, so I'm feeling my shit like it was a no-brainer I'm going to go be a musician, right? And then everybody graduates. And now I'm back at the same school in the same place, and they're all gone. And as I later realized, they went to their own cities, and some of them would later come back and come see you when you played there. But like, I think that is the moment when most musicians quit. Because you ride the college high, whatever that means, not necessarily even that you went to college, just that kind of like the young peak. And when that first wave crashes and the tide goes back that first time, that's where people start looking around like, oh man, I could have done some other things. Like I could have some other prospects.
It's a very good painting of how it is. Watching just like the artist you work with, the friends, you know.
And even the ones that you're like, who are like so set on this one thing and that one thing, you're like, I've had a million of those one things. It's what's after that is the real test, because there's always going to be a pullback after that, and what that is. Like, there's no one thing that's ever going to be like.
There's so many times I thought, where I'm like, yeah, this is going to be the moment that changes my career, and it's all of them. It's all.
And
it's the dominoes.
But what I will say is, you know, you start to understand that more, and then you start to look forward to that dip, and then you start to like ride it and get your like grasp of it all. But absolutely. So that is like the first time, and that's also a time where you have so many possibilities, other chances, other things offering more money right away, other things to do, life. But it's also the time where you don't normally have a wife, kids, like that you could fucking go for it. So the real truth is, if you're gonna be a fucking lowest level of the fucking rung of the fucking ladder, you might as well do it at the youngest age you possibly can, and just fucking put your head down and start grinding. And you know what I mean? And that is the great lesson in all of it, was like, fuck it. And you know, I was lucky. I got motivated. My buddy had left his TV in my apartment, and Planet Earth had just come out. And we were like hitting the fucking gas, being like, oh shit, the Earth. And I grew up as like a kid who loved nature and playing outside and all these things, that the world was going in the other direction. So that was right when I got into like the live music and the more acoustic instruments and the vibe and the music. So throughout the 2010s, where most music was getting very electronic and very like produced, we were making music that was way different, with lyrics that were way different. And it was like almost a deliberate zag to the zig. And what's funny is nowadays you can make music over any beat and people are cool with it. But back then it was a little bit more like with lanes, I feel like, with that kind of.
I do think the lanes have opened up more.
Yeah, and I do like that about it, because it's like if you put out a song that's a remix that's totally different, your fans aren't like, you've changed. They're like, cool. Like the fans that would like that. There, I think people are way more open to, and I can only hope that bands like Sophistafunk help that, because we were there blending styles and there in the trenches, like trying to open up those doors for for that exact thing. So, I look at the echoes of what we did in a lot of different ways, but now it's just kind of this full circle where I'm ready to conceptualize it as a movement, as an upstate movement, and like step into that. And that's where I feel like this last 2 years has been real prescient. Like when it came to, and I mean, working with the Homegrowers Championship, working with Flintstone, working with the Higher Calling, a hire company dispensary in Syracuse, working with Cannabaceae, the homie Phoenix. Like, it's just something about plugging the industry in with the music and all of this that was like, holy shit. Upstate has its own culture and its own statement to make. And that's what has me just building bridges across the state, coming to spots like this. Man, appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man.
And that's how we do it. It's like, it's how we open up these doors. And I saw you at the party bringing the heat. You know what I mean? Like, and I've been doing my thing DJing, which is real fun, because we have like live musicians come up and play with them. You saw how like E-Man was playing.
E-Man, yeah.
So we have like keyboard players and live musicians.
So that's what you're going to be doing the 15th,
yes,
correct?
Exactly.
I wish I could make that, and I would have been honored to be a part of that.
Yeah, we just caught that wave. We basically just found this like the right tempos to just get everything in that spot. And then once we hit that, the pocket was right. You just let those babies breathe. People start dancing. And then you're behind the table, so then you can just feel your way about how often to rhyme or not, let it go, hype the crowd. And once, that's like a whole other gear that's been really fun to explore, because I take some of my favorite music and put our own spin on it and like work with some amazing turntablists. So DJ RDF is going to be there November 15th. That is like the Slammer, Westcott Theater coming up next week. So
yes, sir.
What, a week from tonight?
This will, yeah. Well, this will probably be out by like the 10th or the 13th. So it'll be a few days from this being released.
Perfect. That's yeah. So come. Yeah. It's almost like we planned it.
Almost. But no, man, it's a serious honor to have you. We got a lot here. You ran through almost everything I had to say for the most part.
Give me a couple. Give me a lightning round.
They do a lightning round. I mean, you ripped through. Did you ever have trouble finding your voice? Like, I don't know. I knew from like my first recording to even now, I feel like I've just found it.
So, I think there's like a larger discussion that's like you're always finding your voice, right? So I think that's the key. So if somebody feels like they haven't yet, it could be just how they're looking at it, because in the end, like, you want to grow up on the record, and I'm really reluctant to do that. I'm a perfectionist. I edit everything a lot. But what I'm basically saying is like Salvador Dali, I want to see his earliest paintings before he became the surrealist. Bob Marley, I want to hear him when he's in the fucking doo-wop band and like what made that. So a lot of what I had to get over was like growing up on the record, because I was so, especially because I'm like kicking life game and I was young, right?
Now, do you think that's because that's coming from the perspective of a creative? And like, I like that shit too. I like I like to see how the sausage is made. I like seeing the come up. I like the grit of things. But I wonder if, because, you've said it before, we live in a very consumer-based
No, so what I'm saying is,
world.
So with that in mind, I think we end up focusing on the needs of the people who are like the nows. But what you have to sometimes get back in touch with is that you yourself are different, and that other people have that in them too. And when they really like something, they like to dig into. So what I'm basically saying is like a lot of finding that is actually like embracing the uncertainty of the early years, especially for me, it was like figuring out with a group of guys that we were making these songs together collectively. So that was like the whole process was very hands-on, everybody together. So there were things and sensibilities. But, I just think I was lucky that I met some artists early on who knew the art of doing hip-hop vocals and doubles and constructive and ad-libs and stacking little things and moments, and just that I feel like to go off into the wild west of live music, I was glad I at least had that with me in like my tool belt in order to like bring some of the order of hip hop and the way I had built it on time signatures and structures and things like into this world of no time signatures and live music. And you know what I mean? It was like I was like a stowaway on a ship that was like off in the raging waters. And that was the big change. I remember being at a drum circle once and like playing the same groove for like 30, 40 minutes. I had never kept time for that long. It was like changing my brain. This was like early on in my festival experience. So I think there was something I had to like learn and grow up. And then, so the finding of your voice, it almost starts to happen like as you look back on it. You're like, oh, damn. you're like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? So to me, like somebody might already have their voice right now and they just don't know it yet. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot to it, but I don't think that you are like, this is my voice and here it is. I think it's more like afterwards. And then, it's funny. Because now I just take it for granted as my voice, but there was a time where like, okay, here it is. KRS-One hands me the mic and I start rhyming and, I can send you the picture or whatever. And KRS-One is putting his hands up and like eyes are just lighting up. And I was like, you can't tell me this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. Like,
I had a pretty similar moment with Who Kid.
you know, it just like those are the things. So okay, any other one?
Favorite venue
That you've ever performed? Thought I can blow back 2 doobies and not have my fucking throat conjuncted.
Favorite venue I've ever
Favorite
performed.
venue. So that's probably harder for you because you got a vast list under your belt. But
I mean,
all right, I'll give you a better phrase on that question. What would you prefer, a 10,000 person room or a 200 person room? Both sold out.
either what I'll say is I'm more nervous to perform to one person. So because if it's just you and me and I got to perform, I'm like looking right at you. So when people are like, oh, nervous, like, if you're going to be nervous for one, you might as well make it 1 million, make it 10,000, make it 100,000. I do love the big energy of a big show, 10,000 people, because you can send out waves and they come back and it's like really cool. However, you can do that in a 200 person room. If you're saying it's a sold out 200 person room or your like favorite homies ever, like that's already going to crush.
Yeah, that's a good time.
Way less than that could crush. So to me, it's more about the feeling in the room. If it's 10,000 people that are there for something else and watching a big TV screen on the other side, then give me the 200 people that are fucking locked in like all day and night. No question. You know what I mean?
I guess I'm just spitballing because I've been diving into a lot of live comedy, and I don't like big comedy as much as I like small room comedy.
And I think there's something to be said about music with that. Comedy to me is so raw in the sense that it's like just you and the audience. Like that is a performer. That is like some brolic shit. I have a lot of respect for it. And not only that, you got to get people to laugh with you too. When I'm saying about inspiring, like I have a lot of ways I could inspire you with the music, but to laugh is like a certain part of the brain and certain thing that has to overlap to get somebody to laugh and to connect with them on that. And like I've always had, in fact, in the song Bruce Lee, when I say to the artists, MCs, and comedians, ain't nothing wrong with being civil and disobedient. Like I wanted to like, because George Carlin, like Bill Hicks, that kind of subversive political commentary has made Sophistafunk what the fuck it is. You know what I mean? Like that's what I try to do with this art is what they did, or what I even give credit to like early Simpsons. That shit is crazy the way they sneak in jabs at like the establishment and the status quo and major industries and everything. Like the first couple years when it's still like, you know, on its way up, that shit is crazy that it was allowed. It was like, oh, they're just a cartoon. So I try to think of that too. Like, oh, that's just Jack, the rapper, the peace and love guy. So I'm like, I'm not a rapper, I'm an activist. Like, what am I really saying? And that's why I just lay on that fucking message throughout every single song. And I got receipts. Some of that shit came out in 2017, 18, that has never been truer. That literally predicted things that happened and shit that went down. So it's like, that's where I say like I'm an OG. Unc got receipts. You know what I mean? Like we are out here. We've been saying it. We stood to it. We stood to a truth. We've always brought everyone in, been bigger than all of it. It's a fucking movement. And that to me is the legacy. That's the real shit about it all. And if you stay true to that, there'll be bread on the table, and you got to just keep moving and keep going and keep showing love and keeping it alive. And literally my life is an echo of it. And I appreciate it every day. I leave every show so like I fucking robbed a bank, like so grateful that I fucking get to do this. And I've had that, but that's what's powered me to do it and keep it alive is that I really do derive and lay my head on my pillow that I'm giving something of value to people. I have I feel a responsibility up there. Like I want you to walk away and feel that and be inspired to go be you and be different. Like I said, we're all unique individuals. All I can ever do is just, fuck music. Like if I was on the elevator with you and I never saw you again for the rest of my life, I would say something to you that day in that elevator. I'm allergic to robotic interactions. I'm allergic to soulless life. I will break the fourth wall. I'll crack a fucking joke. You will laugh in that fucking elevator that day. You'll never see me again. It will never matter. And props to my dad, you know, and my mom, because they lived through crazy family shit and went through fucked up shit. But I appreciate I got them, and they gave me a lot of love. That's why I give a lot of love back. I'm like, that's why I expect, like, how could I expect love from anyone else if I couldn't when I'm lucky enough? But like I said, everyone has fucked up shit. It's finding where you're lucky. But my dad, and this is on some real shit, it didn't matter where we were, who you were, what it was. He was saying, what's up? We could be on a line at an amusement park. He didn't judge. I saw him treat every human with respect.
You were never like, Dad, stop. It never bugged you. You always did it.
Way more now. My mom walks up to every motherfucker's table and they eat and like sits with them, and it's like hilarious.
Did you always admire it, or did you kind of have that little kid like, oh, Dad?
I thought my dad was so cool. He was like the Fonz, kind of like that's what he looks like. So like I don't know. There's just something about him that
so
was
just
like
always
he was swagging it. Like he was just swagging it. He wasn't too much. Like there was just something about it, and he treated everyone with the same respect. Didn't matter who the fuck you were, and I lived that and saw that. I mean, like God bless my, you know, just my neighbors, my family, like everything. I was raised in a way that was like that. I try to basically. I learned things at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 about life. My next door neighbors are Jamaican, and they watch me every morning before and after school. And my best friend was Kim and Khalil, and I was literally learning music from them at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know what I mean? So bless the parents, bless our families, bless our lives. But that's what I'm trying to bring to the world, basically. It's like you boil it all down. It's like that's what this fucking music's about.
I used to tell people I inspire to inspire. God.
You know, and let it speak for itself when it's all said and done. Stand on it, you know. But yeah, you got any other question? This is it. You got JB in the hot seat.
I mean, I think I'm happy with everything I got today, dude. Man, you gave me an amazing interview, and you said a lot of real, true shit here, and I expected nothing less, to be honest.
You know.
And
give me a doobie, put me in a room like this. Like a pig of shit out here.
You know, how was it doing the Guy Fieri thing? How long ago was that you guys actually filmed that?
They came and filmed. It was like probably, I don't know, a couple months before all that. We were waiting to hear when it was coming. I guess it was still 24. And then Adam filmed an extra thing with him. But yeah, we keep in touch. I texted him last night because you can actually see in the wearing on the shirt, it's our homie that passed, Carl Ruiz. So he's on the shirt, so you can check that out. I texted over to him. So we got a little Easter egg up in there. But, you know, I got a lot of respect for those who pass. And, like, when people say that, you know, like, I feel that. I feel either on some being John Malkovich shit or on some, like, the ancestors, whatever it is, I feel like, you know, there's things we can do to honor those who come before us. And when you do, there's blessings that come along with it that, you know, you start to follow along the way. Maybe it's the less materialistic or the road less traveled. Maybe you got to confront some hard truths about yourself. Like, but to me, I was never comfortable being the guru. Because once it got to like 2012 and I've been saying this shit, now we're like popular, I kind of had to like back up from it all and be like, no, I'm still this work in progress. I'm still this human being on this planet and figuring it out. And I think that's the most important part of my journey and what's made people who've had the Sophistafunk experience probably feels different than others. And even if it's at the expense of like business gain or some other aspect, like that's what keeps me so energized and pure to it. That's what gives me such a pure love for this and why I can have this like really beautifully unsullied relationship through all these years with it. It's just holding real true to that and not performatively, not just to say it out loud, just to hopefully inspire others that like, if you do, blessings do come, you know? And I'm not saying to do it for the blessings because a lot of it isn't, you know? I always like to say I have bad day-to-day luck and good long-term luck. And that's what helps me process fucked up shit that happens all the time. But then you get the silver lining. And You know, that's what I just want everyone to understand is like, you follow that deepest voice in your heart, it's going to bring you to the place you're supposed to be, even through all the shit, through all that fucking murky, but I can't and won't. No one would have ever thought I could have fucking done this ever. No one would have ever believed that all these years later we'd still be doing this. And yet here it is, as real as can fucking be. And it's like,
and it's still growing, and it's not going to stop growing.
And I never, bro, family members, they gave me cards with 2 quarters in it, like 50 cents, you know what I mean? Like, people came at me from all angles because I was a really high achiever, and now they were like, what is Jack doing? I never did this to prove any of them wrong. I never did this in a certain way that would make this to show them. They want to come on board, welcome on board. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to stand on that, and I'm going to leave it open to...
They ride with me, they ride with me.
And that mindset allowed me to never, like, betray my morals and values, and that's why I can, like, stand on this shit, you know? And all these years later, we say, bro, you want to book us? I'll fucking say my truths. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not afraid to say this anywhere because of how vetted and how strong I believe in what the message is. That if you let me in a room to say it, I'll bring fucking kings to their knees with that shit. You know what I mean? Like, this is that piff. You know what I mean? And I work my ass off on that. Like, I'm here, like, with the particle, like, to stand to the 7th chakra, like, to speak it out. And I'm going to try my absolute hardest to be the best I can be. And if I keep that honest conversation, then there'll always be another show. There'll always be bread on the table. There'll always be the next fucking thing. And that's all I got to fucking worry about. And,
the universe will always provide.
You know, and stick to it as long as I'm fucking here. And then let it all get sorted out. And then they can stand and they can watch these and we can live it, you know, we can play it back. But that's where we're at.
Well, I think we got more than we need here. I'm going to kill this.
Bop.
Tune in next time.